secret golf. It's what I'm looking for.
It's Secret Golf with Elk and Knoxy, the podcast. Hi, I'm Knoxy, back to normal, some kind of normal routine after the madness of the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass last week. It's in my hometown. I live 10 minutes from the course, so it was brilliant. There's so much that goes into that event, and it really is super special and unique. And now that it's over, I feel like I've got a case of the blues. But anyway, it was fun. We were at the Sawgrass Marriott Resort just beside the course with Golf Talk America. So thank you so much to Frank Bassett and the team from Golf Talk America. We had a really good time with them and did some good podcasts. They're all on the PGA Tour website, so you can go and find them. If you go to the radio section, the audio section, and find podcasts, Golf Talk America is in there. And also, I was very lucky because a lot of our players came over. So thanks very much to all of our Secret Golf guys who gave us some time. They came over, sat down for a chat, and we recorded podcasts with each of them. So you can go and listen back. It wasn't all about the players. We spoke a lot about their season so far, their goals for the rest of the season, what they're working on. We kind of got a bit technical with some of them. And yeah, really good. So they're all online. However you listen to podcasts, you can go and find them. But the easiest way is maybe to subscribe on iTunes. So it's Secret Golf with Elk and Knoxy, and you can find all of the podcasts from last week there. Now, the Players' Championship means a lot to us at Secret Golf because Elk has won it twice, 91 and in 97. And I've got him on the phone now because we have to do a little bit of a recap, a post-Players conversation because, well, Elk, that was the last time the Players was going to be held in May, moving to March next year.
Yes. You know, the Players' Championship, I think it's going to be better in March, Diane. It's the weather seems so calm in May. And I suppose, you know, I was telling my son on the weekend when I won the tournament in 97 by 7 strokes, all anybody wanted to do was see me fail. And I think everybody was thinking the same thing about Webb Simpson, although it was a great performance by him.
Yeah, I mean, I was there over the 4 days and watched Webb Simpson dominate. Opening round of 66. He then shot that 63 on Friday, which was unbelievable. Final round, he did shoot a 73, but it was definitely his tournament to lose.
Yeah, no doubt. You could tell at the end of the round, you're just trying to finish. I think his caddy said it was the longest day he's ever caddied. He said it was harder than he thought it was going to be. Webb hasn't won a lot of tournaments. You know, he won the US Open a number of years ago, and that was great, but he's not been prolific. And I suppose if you look at his swing and so on and his putting problems that he's had, he's done really well to come back from where he was with the anchor and now he's non-anchoring, all this stuff. So good for him.
Exactly. Now, one person I do want to talk about is Jason Dufner. He did the best out of all of our Secret Golf guys, finishing tied 5th. We're going to look at his stats in a little while. Some of them are extremely impressive. But how would you sum up Duff's week?
Well, whenever you think of Jason Dufner or when you see him play, you know, he's an easy guy to root for. He's kind of like got a man body and he doesn't smile much. People say he looks unhappy, but he's probably the happiest guy I know. It's kind of painful at times to watch Jason putt, particularly on those last 3 holes where he had a bit of a tough time. Although I told him on the phone that, you know, 3 putting on 16 it's not that bad. You know, the back fringe, it's hard to get it to judge it just over the hill. 17, the ball could have gone down further. He had the fastest putt on the green. And then 18, same thing. He had the fastest putt on the green. He's like, I don't want to just dribble it down there. I want to try to make it. There's so much money at stake. But I think we all remember when Jason won the PGA at Oak Hill in Rochester. Every putt is a bit of a it's a bit of a project for him. In fact, you know this as well as I do. When we filmed Jason's channel for putting, he didn't even shoot a putting channel. He said, "Listen, I'm going to send everybody to Jackie Burke's channel." He's an easy guy also for the media and so on to pick on because he does look like he's struggling. But who hasn't struggled trying to make a 3-foot putt for pressure.
Exactly. Now, one other thing I want to talk about in relation to Duff is, well, the putting and the comments afterwards. The media talking about it, people on social media. We all know the pitfalls of social media and the fact that everyone has an opinion and a forum to voice it. But Duff used it perfectly to hit back at everyone. And he put on Twitter, everybody wants to talk about the 3 feet I missed on the last hole, but nobody wants to talk about the 270 feet made that had put me in that position. Hashtag moving on with life. He makes a very valid point.
It's true. You know, Jason has worked so hard this year on his putting. We filmed it. He's working with a new company, Blast Golf, which has gone to a wider stance, more bent over. He beat the field in putting this week. So if Jason Duffner beats the field in putting, he's going to finish right where he did every week. He's going to be in the top 5 because he hits the ball really well. He also noted on social media the $400,000 it cost him for that 3-footer. It wasn't actually his money because he didn't have it in his pocket yet. It's funny how sometimes, you know, the press has their little things they pick on. I mean, I thought Jordan Spieth played the hole way worse. He snap hooked his driver into the water and then he 4-putted on the green, and they never said a word. So, you know, he was playing with Tiger Woods. So I don't know. It just seems like they pick on who they want to.
Yeah. I mean, I've got the numbers here. I've got all of Duff's stats, and he was 3rd in strokes gained putting throughout the tournament, 3rd in strokes gained off the tee, and tied 2nd in fairways hit, over 80% of fairways hit. I mean, the numbers don't lie, and you can see exactly why he did finish tied 5th and at one point had a position to get solo 2nd. But that's golf, and as he put it perfectly, nothing's ever given to you until you have finished the 18th on the final day.
That's correct. I wish I had all the 3-footers in my career back again, because I wouldn't be on the phone now. I'd be in Monte Carlo laying on the beach somewhere drinking a drink with an umbrella out of it. I had so many missed putts. One time I missed a putt in the Tour Championship up in Southern Hills. I was playing, and then Billy Mayfair won the tournament, and I was close, and I was coming up the last hole, and it looked like he's won it. So I putted down. I had like 18-inch putt to finish 2nd, and I leaned over to tap it in. I was still trying. I wasn't trying, but I missed it. And like 2 hours later, I was sitting in this bar having a drink of beer or something, and these 2 guys sitting next to me were watching on the TV, and they showed me missing this 2-footer, and they said, "You see this guy today?" And on the golf, he leaned over. He wasn't even trying. It cost him $250,000. What an ass! And I just sat there. I didn't say a word. I mean, you know, what could you say? I had a kind of a loop in my stroke the whole week, but you know what? I was right there. Sometimes when you have something that's going to break all the time, you constantly, like, everyone may be able to relate if they maybe hook the ball occasionally. If you worry about your hook all the time and you fight against it all, sometimes you can play really good fighting against one shot. Yeah. You know what I mean? As opposed to it just showing up out of nowhere.
It's funny because people always want an explanation. You mentioned Jordan Spieth and the missed putts on 18. You know, people are thinking there has to be an explanation. There's got to be an answer for this. I'm part of this random email list, obviously, and I got this thing today. It popped up in my inbox and it said, have deadlifts damaged Jordan Spieth's putting? Do you know what a deadlift is? The move in the gym?
Oh, I do, yeah. Well, I haven't actually done one myself, but I've read about it.
Well, that was going to be my next question. But, you know, as I said, everyone wants an explanation, especially with someone like Jordan Spieth, who was known as the master of putting for such a long time. But, you know, give the guy a break. It happens to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Tiger Woods, like Duffy's chipping, like a year or two ago, where he literally couldn't chip on the green, and now he's fixed all that. I always believe that everything's fixable. Like just because you may have the yips or something, or you may have a problem putting, I believe it's all fixable. Now Jordan, he's probably one of the greatest Swiss Army knives of all time. The guy putts cross-handed, he putts looking at the hole, he putts regular. I mean, the guy's like will do anything to get it in, and some players are afraid to do that. Like they think they'll be ridiculed for looking funny. I've seen Justin Rose do the most crazy pre-shot routine on like the first tee of the Masters, where he squats and brings the club halfway down. I'm like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that in my bedroom by myself, that drill. But hey, it made him hit the ball what he wanted to do.
Yeah, for sure. That email that I got also said, what could have happened to Jordan? Was it a car accident? Did he fall? Was he tackled playing pickup football? I mean, it's almost like they're searching for this terrible thing that's happened behind the scenes in his life to cause him to miss some putts.
Well, he hit a nice shot on 17, and he made a birdie there, so his putting was only bad for the last 4 minutes of the golf.
Yeah, exactly. So the next person I want to talk about is Tiger Woods, of course. Opening round 72, followed up by a 71, made the cut on the number. Then on Saturday, he goes on this incredible run, ends up shooting 65. I remember I got to the course on Saturday. Some of my friends were there. We were at the range, and all you hear is, Tiger's on 16, everyone get to 17. And I thought, I'm staying well away from that. But, you know, everyone was going wild about it, rightly so. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, nothing electrifies everyone more than Tiger Woods making a run, you know, and he was lucky to make the cut. Justin Thomas made bogey on Friday afternoon from the right rough on 18. If he makes par, then Jordan and Tiger don't play on the weekend. So
yeah.
you never know. You never know what's going to happen in golf. Sometimes you might not have played so good. I didn't think he played very good the first 2 days. The first day looked like his swing was all over the place. Second day, I watched some of it, looked better. And then Saturday, he started hitting his driver really straight. And, of course, there's no place that's tighter than Players' Championship. So I think, in summary, for Tiger, he's got to be feeling really good about his driver. He must be, I don't know, I mean, no one can think like him, but he must be thinking ahead now to, he's got to be saying to himself, if I can hit the great drive at 5 and a great drive at 7 at Players this is, and a great drive at 14, which he did on Sunday, then I must be able to make these drives at Shinnecock. He must be thinking that way. Of course, his putting's always there. His bunker game, I would give him probably a D, and I'm sure he'd probably give himself an F, but he'll get that fixed up. I think he's making huge strides. Yeah,
well, he says the win is just around the corner. But if you look at his final round, he shot a 69 on the 14th. Well, he bogeyed 14. Tee shot was in the fairway, but it looked as though his short game was costing him a bit.
He's putting a lot of spin on the ball, and I was noticing on Jordan Spieth, he also is putting a lot of spin on the ball. And I don't know whether there's a lot of humidity in the air, but you don't see a lot of balls spinning way back anymore like we used to with the Balata balls and stuff. And, of course, these guys can monitor all that with their TrackMan, and they know that if the ball's spinning too much, they can change the angle of attack and blah, 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 all those fancy things, which I suppose we all had to learn it and do it through trial and error when we were coming up. I remember Greg Norman used to spin the ball so far back, and we were like, God, that looks so sexy on TV when you spin it back like 20 feet. But Sam Snead used to say, well, nobody's ever won a tournament with the ball spinning back towards you. It's always got to go the other way. Mm-hmm. So a lot of spin on the ball is not great. You want to make the ball stop. You don't want to make it spin back. But I was noticing on the first hole, Jordan Spieth spun it back 20 feet. Tiger spun it back a lot. But I think the bad shot that Tiger hit at 14, you were referencing there where he made bogey, that was a really bad shot for him. The shot he hit at 17 was a really bad shot for him. Yeah. I mean, he probably missed his target by 20 yards with a wedge. I mean, he's supposed to land that ball pin high left 12, 15 feet, and he was short of the green, maybe 3 yards short of the bulkhead. So that was a real miss hit for him. Looked to me like he went a little down on it too far and caught it too high in the face. But, you know, let's face it, 17 at TPC will shake anybody's nerves. I mean, it's a brutal shot.
Yeah, it really is, especially when you're under pressure. Final day nerves coming into it. 54 balls in the water at 17 this year.
There's no doubt. The 17th hole at Players, I mean, Webb Simpson played it essentially. He probably had the most nerves because he was, what was he, 5 or 6 ahead? He finished up making a double bogey on 18, but it was irrelevant at that point. I felt more nerves when I walked onto the 17th hole with a 6-shot lead than I did when I walked any other time. I think it was because I was like, if I hit this in the water right here, I might hit like 6 more in the water. I mean, you sort of feel really vulnerable about that hole. Like, it's not really, if you go in the water once, you can definitely go in it again. We saw that with Barnrat. Barnrat went in the water twice and just cost himself a fortune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like throwing the money in the water at that point. But it was so funny. We spoke to Chris Stroud during the week, and Chris had played a practice round with him. They're good friends. And he was like, well, I can't really pronounce his last name, so I just call him Alphabet. So whenever I see him now, whenever I see his name, I'm just going to call him Alphabet.
Well, my son told me that he collects like Lamborghinis. I said, who collects Lamborghinis? Aren't they like 250? He said, yeah, Dad, he's got like 6 of them. I said, well, it cost him at least 1.5 on the 17th hole, maybe a new 1.5 down payment on the next one on 17 on Sunday.
Exactly. Now, as I was saying, throughout the week, we caught up with a lot of our secret golf guys, and 2 people I want to talk about. One, I guess, is a little bit of a touchy subject for me, but Russell Knox, my brother, and Patton Kizzire. A couple of years ago, Russell had his best year so far, 2 wins. Patton's had 2 wins so far this season. But, you know, for both of them, they missed the cut. The results haven't been that good of late. Patton's missed a few cuts recently after the Masters. You know, what do you think about that? After getting those wins, especially for Patton this season, is it a mental thing? Is it a technical thing? What do you think's going on?
I don't know. I did speak to him recently, and I was telling him that, you know, when you've won twice in one season, that you must also realize that his good form can only be slightly just below the surface somewhere. So sometimes players get relaxed. They've taken more time off after they've had 2 wins. I don't know. I'm sure, knowing him, I'm sure he's pretty ticked off about the situation. He was up top of the FedEx Cup. He putts so good, so I can only think that it's got to be something in his preparation or maybe his driving. I did listen to his podcast, and he said he was really working on fading the ball left to right so he can get it in play. So I don't know. Again, I try not to, you know, interfere with these guys too much. If they come to me, I talk to them about it. But I just know that his with 2 wins this year, it's going to show up again, and I'm not worried about him. Russell's been playing good, your brother. He's had a love-hate relationship with this course. He either plays great or he just flames out like big flame out, right?
Yeah.
And Harmon missed, Perez missed. They had both had. I think Harmon had a big score on one hole. Yeah,
he was 10 over after Friday. But I spent a bit of time with Russell beforehand, and there was something that Russell said. He's been working on his putting, you know, looking at his stats. It's definitely the poorest part of his game right now. And he said something that reminded me of something you had said when we were talking about your wins in 91 and 97. And you would tinker with your putting stroke a little bit before playing TPC Sawgrass. Russell said that he was making a bit of an adjustment too. You know, it's definitely something that he's aware of and he's working on.
Yeah, I always used to think sometimes that if it was just my putter that was the problem, then I felt like, okay, I can manage putting badly because I can hit it good and I can still compete. So to me, you know, and this may be totally opposite of everyone else thinking, but if his game's good and all he has to fix is his putting, he should be fine. I mean, It can't be that bad. So I'm not worried about him at all. He does work hard on his putting, though.
He does.
I think a lot of it has to do. I could not play a lick in my home tournament. I almost won it one time out of 30 years or something. So I don't know what it is. Some guys play great at home, but I've always never have. People come by the house and they want to talk and visit, and I finish up getting half as much sleep as I would as I be on the road. So I don't know. Playing at home's tough.
Yeah.
And you know, there's 70 other guys who are just as disappointed. Harmon missed, Pat Perez missed. I know Pat Perez went in the water on 17. He was just so pissed at himself about that because I was texting with him. He didn't even want to. I can't even tell you what he wrote on what he thinks of himself after going in the water on 17. So anyway.
Well, anyway, I'm always looking for the good omen of things. When Russell won the WGC in China, he was really late getting there. They had issues with the visa last minute. His caddy was late getting there, and then it all came together for him that week. So this week he's off to Dallas for the Byron Nelson, and he was meant to fly out yesterday. The flight got cancelled because of the weather in Jacksonville here. And then today when he was going to the airport, there was a big crash on the road. So he made his flight by minutes. So I don't know, maybe the last minute stress is a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. We always used to say where you get hurt the most is on a late night flight when you've been playing all week and you pull your bags off after you've been half asleep on the plane going to the next tournament. We used to try to get out of the tournaments on Sunday night and then have a night off Sunday night and Monday night before we went back to work Tuesday. But where you can get injured the quickest with an elbow or a shoulder or something is getting your bags off the belt, Diane, at midnight after you've had a few drinks and you've been playing golf all week and you're trying to get to the hotel. And I mean, more backs, more hips, more elbows and wrists get tweaked in the airports than they do anywhere else on tour. And this week, of course, the Byron Nelson's playing a new course, Trinity Forest. I played it. Well, I love Ben Crenshaw and Coeur. This is a real different look for Texas. When people see this, they're going to think they're in Aberdeen, where you're from, or up in Scotland.
Yeah, exactly.
It's completely spread out. It's completely flattened and link style golf, and I think it's fabulous. Now, it's a ways out of town, and there's been some people worried about whether or not they're going to be able to pull off the atmosphere they had at the Las Colinas. But you know, AT&T is such a great sponsor for the tour. They do the Pebble Beach tournament. You know, they've been just stalwart for our tour. So let's see what happens. Players probably going to love it.
I love when we get new courses on the circuit. I mean, look at Erin Hills last year for the US Open. It's just something different to talk about, isn't it? Did you see the letter that's been doing the rounds on social media over the past few days? When Jordan Spieth was 16 years old, he wrote to the Byron Nelson and asked for an amateur exemption, and he got it, and he played really good. But did you see it? I thought it was brilliant.
And I played that year, and he was back behind me with a bigger gallery than I had when he was 16. I was like, what's this kid? Who's this guy? And then the very next week, I went to Memphis, and he was in that tournament, and he was out there playing a practice round. So I waited for him, and I played like 3 holes with Jordan Spieth when he was like 17 years old. I wanted to see what he looked like, and I thought, oh God, here comes another Tiger Woods. And sure enough, you know, I got to spend a little time with him and Justin Thomas, the new #1 player in the world. I texted him on Sunday night, and I just so impressed with. I'm so impressed with Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, and Ricky Fowler. Those 3, in my mind, are so impressive the way they handle everything, and they love golf so much. They do everything for the fans. They do everything for the sponsors, and they're good guys. And they relax in what I think is the right amount. But when they go back to golf, they're so focused. And I just love watching Justin Thomas play golf.
Yep. As you say, the brand new world #1, Justin Thomas, even though, well, we understand how he got there because he is an incredible player and he's on form right now. But the way that the points works and stuff is still just a little bit of a complicated mystery.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a system that we don't even want to get into talking about. You gain points, and then over 2 years, the points roll off, and some are rolling on, et cetera, et cetera. I remember one year with me, I was about 3rd in the world, won Doral and won the Players' Championship back-to-back and went to 15th in the world. So because there was points coming off from the year previous. Anyway, I think JT rightfully sits at the top of the pile right now. You know, and to be honest, I don't think he's going anywhere for the next 10 years either, to be honest with you.
Yep, I don't either. And he definitely deserves to be world #1 anyway. Great achievement. So, Elk, thank you very much. What have you got on this week? Is it a busy one?
I'm just working away. My Houston Rockets are playing the Golden State Warriors, and, of course, Steph Curry and his dad, Del Curry, and Del's in town. I'm going to go play golf with those guys tomorrow, even though they're the enemy. And Chris Paul's dad, we're all going to take him out to Blue Jack and see what they can do tomorrow out there.
Sounds good. Well, you guys have a lot of fun, and we will catch up with you again next week.
Thanks, Diane.
So after talking to Elk about the Players' Championship, I wanted to get Ryan Ballingy on from Golf News Net, because Ryan wasn't at the tournament. But Ryan, I'm guessing that you were watching every minute from the comfort of your home.
Well, the comfort of my in-laws' home, but I caught almost all of it, yeah. And it's one of my favorite tournaments of the year, so how could I miss it? Exactly.
Right. So give me your brief dissection. What did you think about it all?
Well, one round really changes everything, right? I mean, Webb Simpson's 63, where he uncharacteristically gained 9 strokes on the field putting, pretty much put the tournament in his favor. He played great on Saturday to kind of lock it up, and from there, history tells us there was no chance of him losing, and he played like a guy who pretty much wasn't going to lose. So kudos to him for playing 54 pretty much perfect holes and then 18 very smart holes to win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, on Friday, I was at the course and that was the buzz. It's so funny how all you hear is just people walking past saying, Webb Simpson, what's he going to do on 17? And, you know, it was amazing. From Friday, we all knew he was going to win pretty much. It was his tournament to lose, as I said to Elk earlier.
Yeah, and he, again, I mean, nobody has lost a lead bigger than 6 strokes after 54 holes in PGA Tour history. So either Webb Simpson was going to become infamous or he was going to win the Players' Championship. And I was willing to wager on Webb closing the deal. And then it was interesting to see all the guys who were chasing. You had between Duffner and Day and Tiger and even Jimmy Walker making it at least kind of interesting. If you're going to make Webb Simpson think about it, those are kind of the guys you want there asking the questions. And Webb never backed down at all.
Yeah, when you know that someone's going to win it, you're right. Then you start kind of looking at the battle for second place onwards. And whenever Tiger Woods is in the mix, whenever Tiger's on a bit of a birdie run, that's always going to be the thing that generates the attention.
And I think that had people captivated after 3, 4, and 5. They figured, okay, maybe something crazy could happen here today. I mean, there had been 63s in the tournament. Webb had one. Brooks Koepka had just fired one earlier in the day, had an albatross. So people probably figured, you know, maybe there is a 63 out there. Maybe there's a 62 out there. And if Tiger or one of the other guys in that kind of group we were talking about puts one up, does Webb Simpson start to blink a little bit? And, unfortunately for those guys, never manifest itself. I mean, all of them kind of had little runs here and there, and Tiger probably got the closest to having that big run that he really needed, but then made a mistake on 14 and kind of pressed the issue on 17, and that was the end of that.
It's such a horrible thing because, you know, when you never want to see anyone do badly, but when people are approaching 17 and when they've been playing well, I'm thinking about Tiger playing 17 on Sunday and Webb Simpson on the Friday. You think, oh my gosh, it could all go wrong on the 17th hole. And for a lot of people, it did.
Yeah, I mean, for Tiger, I have to give him credit in one sense because he probably played for the crazy play. He probably figured if I could make 2 or if he could make 1, maybe he could make Webb Simpson think about it. And that was really the only way he was going to win. At this point in his career, he probably doesn't care about another $500,000 check. He wants titles. So I have to commend him for at least trying. But even for him, I mean, the hole got him. He didn't hit the proper shot. He thought he clubbed right. The wind was wrong or whatever it was. But it was the first time he was in the water at that hole in 15 years. And so that moment can get to anybody. And I think that probably gave a couple of those guys some hope in a weird, morbid sense that if Webb makes an 8 or a 9 or something on that hole, then the whole complexion of the tournament changes. But Webb Simpson was so smart in that moment. He played for the left side of the green. He found the left side of the green. He didn't even bother with the pin. He did what he had to do to win the golf tournament. Didn't even bother trying to show off or anything like that. He knew he had the trophy, and that's ultimately what's most important.
Yeah, he got the job done. So this week on the PGA Tour, off to Dallas, Texas for the AT&T Byron Nelson. It's at Trinity Forest Golf Club, a new course on tour. What do you make of it so far?
I'm very excited to see it. To be truthful, it's one of the few reasons I'm really interested in the tournament this week. It's a Bill Core and Ben Crenshaw design, opened a couple of years ago. It was a former landfill, so they capped it all with clay, and then they let the two guys go at it. It's a completely treeless golf course in the middle of Trinity Forest. So it because of all the trash, basically, in which this golf course sits over the years, it kind of has some really fascinating mounding. And that's kind of the name of the game here. It's firm and fast, a lot of centerline bunkers, a lot of decision-making, but fairly wide open. Greens that are often perched and have a lot of false positive areas. You can hit a lot of greens in regulation, but you may not have a lot of good looks at birdie. So it's going to be a golf course where if it stays firm and fast, and I think the weather is supposed to be very warm and not too much rain over the next 4 or 5 days, I think we're going to see a lot of guys hitting extremely long drives, and then you're going to ask them to hit some tough shots into some greens that probably won't be as receptive as these guys might like from week to week, and certainly not as receptive as last week when the humidity kind of made things a little bit softer maybe than they would have expected at Sawgrass. So I think this is probably going to get in some guys' heads because this golf course is extremely different than what they're used to playing out week to week on the PGA Tour. But if you're an architecture aficionado, if you're someone who loves to go check out the Tom Dokes and Corin Crenshaws and up-and-coming architects of the world, then this is going to be a really cool week for you to get to watch the pros play this course.
Yeah, so Billy Horschel won it last year. We do a fantasy league here at Secret Golf, and I am doing terribly, Ryan, really, really badly. I had confidence heading into this year, but no chance. Who would you advise me to pick for my fantasy team this week?
I think if you look at Core Crenshaw designs, you kind of get not exactly the same from design to design, but we really only have one on the PGA Tour that gets played, and that's at Kapalua, the Plantation course for the Winners Only tournament, the Tournament of Champions. So that's really the only window these guys have into Core Crenshaw on tour, and that's the only one most people probably have, because most people probably haven't played a Core Crenshaw course. So the hallmarks are kind of wide fairways, lots of playing room from tee to green. But once you get close, it gets really interesting. You have bigger greens. So you can hit a lot of greens, but you've got to be really specific on your second shots. A lot of times the right play is not at the pin. It's away from it and funnel it in. You have to be really creative around the green. So I'm looking for somebody kind of has experience playing in Australia, because it's a lot like sandbelt golf. So I love Adam Scott this week. He's starting to come around. He's playing pretty good golf. His putting is getting better. He's got a lot to play for this week. If he stays in the top 60 in the official world golf ranking, then he avoids having to go to sectional qualifying, which is something pretty much every pro desperately wants to avoid. So he's got a lot going on for him this week. Jimmy Walker's another guy I really, really like. I think he's got the game that's kind of come around after everything he went through with Lyme disease. He's playing really good golf now. His approach game is one of the best on the PGA Tour, and certainly one of the best in the field this week, which is a little bit diminished compared to the players last week. So I like where he's at. And then I actually kind of like your brother this week, because I want to think about guys who are playing golf or have experience playing golf in firm, fast conditions, who might be able to deal with some wind. Obviously, the heat's a little bit different than Scotland, but the firm and fast conditions certainly are there. And the kind of shot making that's required is something I think Russell could do really well.
Okay, good. I like that. Now, our fantasy team is something that we're growing. It's on pgatour.com, and we're just secretgolf.com is the name of the league. Ryan, you need to come along and join. But fantasy teams, something that is huge in golf. And this kind of relates to that. This week, big sporting news that the Supreme Court are striking down a federal law that prohibited sports gambling. What do you think is the reaction, first of all, of the golfing world to this news, and then for the PGA Tour, what do you think they're thinking?
The reaction I've seen has been largely kind of positive. I think part of that is because a lot of golfers gamble on themselves when they play. So if you're a golfer and you're a golf fan, then you're probably used to putting a few dollars down on yourself when you play. So what's the difference between doing that and betting on a PGA Tour or another tour event? So I think generally the reaction for most golfers is, okay, that's fine. I mean, I've seen some negative reaction. I understand that. Mm-hmm. And I think the smartest negative reaction was from Randall Mell over at Golf Channel. He said, well, there are people who get rowdy and they yell at inopportune times, but what if someone has money on a PGA Tour event and they're there in person and they yell something in an opportune time to swing the event a certain way? That could have a big effect on betting. But the PGA Tour seems to have been in support of it. They kind of seem to understand the wave of the future that's coming. They could even potentially support having betting terminals on site at tournaments in states where it ultimately is legalized. I mean, that's a little bit down the line, I think, but we'll get a really quick window into what happens with legalized sports betting. We know about it in Nevada. We don't really know about it in New Jersey. That's going to start in 2 weeks' time. The first betting windows in New Jersey at Monmouth Park, a horse racing track just outside New York City. So just after that, the U.S. Open comes. So we'll be really curious to see how the betting windows at Monmouth Park correspond to what's happening in the Hamptons and on Long Island for the U.S. Open. Will there be much action? But I think as people become more accustomed to sports betting being a legalized part of the culture, I think golf will benefit a lot because, frankly, what can't you bet on in golf? You can bet on hitting the fairway, missing the fairway, hitting the green, making the putt. Bet on scores, match. I mean, there's just so many different things that kind of the degenerate community of gamblers that already bet on sports know about, that people who maybe are not accustomed to it will learn about and maybe responsibly put a few dollars here and there on some things to happen. And I think that will mean generally better sports ratings because more people will have, frankly, a vested interest in what happens. So I think golf and baseball are probably the two sports that benefit the most from legalized betting because of the volume of stuff you can bet on. And hopefully that means we'll bring more people into the game and keep them not as just interested bettors, but people who become fans of the sport.
Yeah, I like the use of the word responsibly, because that's definitely the key word in this. Being someone from the UK where it's legal to gamble and bet on sports week in, week out, it's a huge part of culture over there. When I moved here, I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't actually know that it was banned over here.
I think it can be in the end, but again, it all comes down to what states decide to do. Ultimately, Congress could choose to create a federal gambling regulation on sports betting. That could come down the pipe. There have been laws introduced kind of over time to potentially address this, and none have obviously gone through, kind of pending this court case. So there could be some action there. But ultimately, it's going to probably come down to each individual state. Do they want to have sports betting? What will it look like? What kinds of bets will they allow? What will the margins be? There's a lot left to be decided, and it's going to take a few years for it all to kind of wiggle itself out. But probably 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to be talking about sports betting and betting on golf as kind of a routine part of week-to-week thinking about the PGA Tour. And I'm very curious what that's going to look like, but that's the future.
Yep, definitely. Ryan Ballingy from Golf Newsnet, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. What are your plans looking like for the coming months? Are you going to be at any big tournaments soon?
So U.S. Open, not too long from now. I'm going to head up to Shinnecock next Monday to go check out the course for preview day and kind of get a sense of what work they've done and what the players are going to be in for. Go to that. And then we have Tiger Woods' event, probably for the final time here in the D.C. area. It's called the National. That'll be here in the end of June, early July, maybe Greenbrier. And then after that, the PGA Championship probably in August. And that'll probably do it for me this year. So 3-4 events coming up, but it'll be a good time of year. I know.
Then we get going into it all again when it comes to the FedEx playoffs. But why don't we catch up next week after you've been to Shinnecock, and then you can come and tell us how the course is looking ahead of the US Open this year.
Okay, that sounds great. And hopefully I won't have to tell you my score if it's really bad. But I'll tell you if it's good.
Oh, thank you. Okay, good. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Diane.
So there you go. I can't wait to hear what Shinnecock is looking like prior to the US Open. We'll hear that from Ryan after he goes and plays that press round. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Knoxy, and if you haven't already, then please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen. But that means that you'll get a wee alert that comes up every time we record a new one. There will be another one next week. And in the meantime, I can't wait to see the thrills and the challenges that Trinity Forest is going to offer on the PGA Tour this week.